Good. Giving folks a little bit of time, enjoying my neuro-spicy beverage trifecta. Uh, we've got little Topo Chico happening, we've got some tea happening because it is past caffeination o'clock for me, and some water, gotta have the flavor, the texture, the hydration. You know how it is. If you are one of those, half my desk is my beverages people. All right. I think we're going to go ahead and start a little bit while folks have a chance to hop on or maybe hop in and out. I know it's 1 p.m. here where I am, but Substack is global. So it'll be a matter of the time that folks are able to wander over, take a gander, maybe watch this on the replay later on, maybe hop into another live later, which might happen. We will see. Happy first day of 75 Bard, everybody. Whoop, 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 whoop. I am coming to you live from a corner of my office space, which looks decidedly not super exciting, but it is super cozy. And it's actually sunny here today, which is a rare treat because it has not been a lot of that recently. And I don't know where you are in the globe, but here it has definitely been cold for cozy season. And we are kicking off the new year 2026 with some snow on the ground, some cozy hot beverages in hand, and just trying to wake up the creative parts of the brain today to kick off 75 Bard. Um, so let's talk a little bit about what 75 Bard is and is not first. So I've actually had people ask me, okay, don't you mean 75 hard? No, no, I do not. Although I will say I love a good pun, obviously. And a little bit of 75 Bard was inspired by the overall concept of 75 hard, which is really just doing things consistently for 75 consecutive days. What we're not going to do is start over if we've got, bumps in the road. What we're not going to do is any kind of shamey, blamey weirdness or letting it, slide into um, disordered relationship to creativity. But what we are going to do is hopefully build a lot more consistency about our creativity, around our creative projects, and find our community, plug in with people. Now, when I say community, it can be really easy to think of that as just blanket social media. I mean, we're doing this thing on the social medias. For a lot of us, we have not ever met in person, although I definitely appreciate all the folks that are hopping in and joining the challenge that I have met. So thanks for all of my folks in existing community. But the socials can be hard. The socials can be full of trolls and a whole bunch of air quotes feedback and criticism that we absolutely do not need in our creative space. So when I'm talking about community and building that through 75 Bard, I'm talking about finding our people, our folks, our peeps, who are good at lifting us up and also good at sharing feedback and meaningful critique that helps us be better and learn new things and expand our horizons. So, when I talk about consistency, that's building some momentum and really giving some focus to whatever our creative endeavor is. And when I talk about building community, I mean actually reaching out and connecting and starting to figure out who helps support us in our creativity and move us forward in that momentum. So that's what we're looking to do. That's the big why. When I was thinking about 75 Bard, it actually started with a friend of mine giving a conference talk on something completely unrelated. And he was talking about challenging himself to post for, I think it was like 30 days straight on LinkedIn and really engaging and starting to build community and ramp up consistency. And my brain, being the weird, spicy connector that it is, was like, Bard. And I was like, what is the 75 Bard thing, brain? What are you talking about? And so of course I had to you know, go to all the search engines and see if it's a thing. And while I got very funny suggestions from AI about leveling up bards in games, which I also a tabletop nerd, so I'm totally here for that. I didn't see anything that used the same little pun and had the same structure that I had in mind, and my brain just would not let the 75 bard thing go. Oh, here we are a little bit later, structuring a thing, coming up with a thing. I don't think that any of it's particularly super mega groundbreaking uh, to discuss gaining that consistency and momentum with creativity. But this is just how my brain decided to package it and deliver it to me to deliver it to you for us to hopefully build some community together. Shout out. Hi, Allie. Thanks for joining. Speaking of awesome humans I know that are in my community, awesome. So when it comes to 75 Bard, my brain just would not let it go, would not shake it off. It was like, no, I think there is something to this. So let's talk about what we're going to do and focus on for 75 Bard on this first kickoff day, first ever time rolling it out. So, first and foremost, what we want to do is pick a particular focus or direction for this 75 consecutive days of creating with more consistency and building our community. Now, my focus, just to give you an example, is writing, which is pretty broad. If you're someone who happens to know me or has seen some of my posts, I'm creative in a lot of different directions. So for me, even just choosing one medium or one focus area for how I could create is kind of a big deal for me because I've been a creative human all my life. In lots of different directions. As previously mentioned, these neuros, they are spicy and they like to pull from all of these different areas. I've been a stage actor. I've done vocal music. I've learned guitar. I've painted. I was an art education major for like a very short stint of time. So, needless to say, lots of options here. Too many options to be able to build real consistency if I have just this wide open scope of I could just do anything. And that's not to limit myself, but that is to leverage the concept of creative constraints, wherein if we add just a little bit of bumpers and some constraints, sometimes that can actually help bring us from the overwhelm of I could do literally anything and choose any direction to kind of help narrow our focus, narrow our scope, and be able to start prioritizing and building some momentum and consistency. Um, so that's an example, writing, of a focus that I have. And you'll notice that it is, for me at least, specific enough to gain focus, but it's wide open enough to add variety. So, what I don't want to do to myself is say, I am only going to write poetry and only going to do that with formality and I'm only going to use iambic pentameter. And really, this is going to be like I'm the next bard, as in Shakespeare. And so I'm going to put it in this sort of hyper specific realm of like sonnets in particular for 75 straight days. Like for me personally, that's way too limiting. And if I do that, then it's also hard for me to have consistency and momentum because I feel like I don't have options for days where my brain's just like, dude, this is not the structure. This is not the day. I'm not the one. I'm not turning out sonnets for you. You're ridiculous. Brains do that sometimes. So I like to give myself enough flexibility to be able to have a little bit more choose my own adventure in the midst of still creating consistency and building in community. So that's how I'm pairing it together. I've chosen writing as my focus. That's specific enough for me to have creative constraints, have real focus, gain momentum, and it's open enough for me to also have variety. So we're trying to pair that together for the next consecutive 75 days is consistency and with enough variety, putting those together to gain momentum. Also, shout out, hi, Sarah. Thanks for joining. All right. So when you're thinking about what you'd like to do for this 75 Bard Challenge endeavor, our starting point is we want to pick our focus. So if you happen to have some paper near you or somewhere to jot it down, maybe you just write a couple of things to remind yourself why you're doing this and what you're focusing on, right? So for the next 75 days, what do you want to be more consistent in creating? And what's an area where you'd also like to build community around that? So for me, it's writing. For you, it could be fill in the blank here. You are a creative human. As a creative human, you probably also have a lot of options. It could be writing, it could be a specific novel that you're working on or a specific area of writing if it helps you to narrow it down further. It could be visual arts more generally. It could be painting as a medium specifically. It could be working on your music generally. It could be learning a new instrument specifically. It could be software development generally. It could be game design specifically, right? That's just a smattering of options, and that is not your limitation. You could be working on your next cool stuff with improv. I'm feeling daily sketching and any creative endeavor, love it. Feel free to share in chat if you've got some additional options that you want to share. But yeah, you are creative because guess what? You're human. Human beings are creative creatures. I know sometimes we forget that, especially when the world's being a dumpster fire, especially when we feel burned out or maybe we've lacked focus. It can be hard to remember that all of us are showing up with lots of options, lots of directions where we can be creative, do creative things, and think more creatively. All right. So, keeping in mind your focus for the 75 days of the 75 bar challenge, let's talk a little bit about the daily rhythm that we are using, leveraging to cultivate here. Now, I personally like using verbiage like rhythm or ritual. The moment that I use routine, my brain freaks out and it goes full like toddler mode, kicking and screaming, and is like, I don't want to do it. Don't make me do the thing. It fixates on you're making me do a thing. So you'll hear me or see me use a lot of ritual or rhythm type language because that just works great for me. At any point in this, if you have keywords that are going to help you with your consistency and gaining that momentum, by all means. Part of this is also gaining discernment and learning ourselves over the next 75 days, especially when we are approaching our creative practice, our creative area, and gaining consistency with creativity. So, what works for you in some settings may not work in your creative setting, and that's okay. And what works for me, pro- quite possibly won't work for you. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. You are your own person. So, some of this is an opportunity to figure out how you get to hone and how you get to tweak what works for you. Okay. All right. So, what is our daily rhythm going to look like? Well, every single day for the 75 days of the challenge, the first thing we're going to do is tend to our care foundations. And simply put, that means what do you need on any given day to be a functioning human being? That's it. So not your best days, not we're not talking like 10 plus step skincare programs here. We're talking like hydrate, get sleep, brush teeth type stuff. And it's still important because when we get in the flow, a lot of us, when we're diving into creativity, literally forget to eat. So, this is also a reminder to set up reminders. Do you have little alarms or apps or sticky notes or anything that you can put in front of you that's auditory, that's visual, whatever the input is that works for you and is accessible for you to remind you to take care of your basic foundational needs every single day. All right. So that's baseline. That's like table stakes is tend your foundations. That's number one for your daily rhythm. Number two is going to be one creative session. Now, that does not have a time minimum. We are not pulling from 75 hard here and it's got to be 45 minutes and it's got to do this specific thing. Like, no, thank you. We do not need to have ourselves so pinned into hyper specific that, again, we don't have enough variety or something that works well for each of us. Now, I will recommend when I'm talking about sessions that you are using for your creativity, around 10 to 15 minutes as a starting point could be helpful. Um, it could be more or less than that, but that's just like a Hey, if you set a timer for that amount of time and you just sat down and let yourself roll with your session, that might give you enough for you to get that consistency and start moving something forward. That's just me speaking for me and some of my interaction with people that I coach. Your mileage may vary, so everything with a grain of salt. Again, you're learning your systems, your rhythm, your rituals for your creativity. Okay, so one creative session per day. Now, what does a creative session mean? That is more wide open. That's allowing your brain to explore. That's allowing you to be just your maximum creative self. Let's say you're learning an instrument. That means you get to spend that time playing around with that instrument, just like getting to know it, trying new things, figuring out how to say no thank you to the voice that's like, we can't play. You can totally play. That's basically what your one creative session is. It is playtime. You get to do cool stuff and you get to deliberately do that every single day. That's your creative session. All right. Third thing, third rhythm of your day is one curation session each day. Now, that's where we're bringing in some structure. So, some of us are great at creating, less great at curating, or vice versa. So, we're doing each of these and we're doing it as deliberate sessions for a reason. Now, you can do your creative session and your curation session back to back if you want to. I highly recommend having a little break in between so you can come to each piece of it really fresh with a new perspective. Your curation session could look a little something like if I'm working on a novel and my creation session was writing more words in that novel, my curation session might be my editing session. Or it could be my I'm reaching out and talking to agencies session. It could be I am setting up and trying new tools to write in session. It's anything that's going to help give you some structure around your creativity or add some skill sets or add some tools into your toolkit. Now, that could be literal tools, like that could be organizing your art supplies and like finding what's going to work for you and making like swatches maybe, or it could be proverbial tools in your toolkit, like I'm going to try some creation or creativity drills and see if that gives me a little bit of breakthrough when I'm doing my creativity sessions. Okay, so far we're tending our foundations for our care for ourselves, very important. We can't like create stuff if we don't exist and can't function. One creation session each day, one curation session each day. And again, given a rough sketch of unintended, I guess, try out like 10 to 15 minutes and see if you want to do more or less than that for your sessions, but you have no minimum. And I'm not putting a cap on it. Your life is your life. You are opting into this. And so you're going to explore what your structure looks like. Okay. So we've talked about foundations. We've talked about creating, we've talked about curating. Now we're going to talk about sharing with our community. So every day, the fourth thing from our rhythm is we're going to share something about our creative endeavors or our creativity with community. Now, going way back to the start of this conversation, when I say community, I do not mean load your stuff into a proverbial trebuchet and hoist it at social media and take in everything that the trolls and naysayers have to say about your work. That's while valuable to create out loud and like leave it wide open and get used to putting your creations out there in the world, that may or may not serve you in gaining consistency if that's the only way that you're creating out loud. So when I say community, I mean we have an opportunity over the next 75 days to find our people, to find the folks who both boost us and give us good, meaningful feedback, who are cheering us on and are also willing to lean in and say, hey, would you like some critique to help with this area or this skill or your editing or your technique, right? So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the people that feel like connection, the community that feels like connection. Now, something you may want to reflect on is what does healthy community mean to you? So, not just people that you happen to know, people that you happen to message. But when you think about healthy community and a community that you want to create in and be a creative in, what does that look like for you? And you may not have an answer right now, and that's okay. And you may have decided that what's worked for you in terms of the people and connections in the past may not be quite feeling like a fit for you moving forward. And that's okay too. And it doesn't have to be literal local community, although it's great if you put yourself out there and maybe find meetups or, find creative groups that you can see in person if that's your thing, if that's your bag. You could find some classes if that's what calls to you, but you can also build community online. It's going to have to be more deliberate because we don't have the connection of proximity, like physical proximity when we do that. So sometimes we have to make more deliberate choices and be more deliberate to build that community, but it's very, very doable. I think we've done that more over the past few years, partly because we've just had to, because just broadly gestured the world, right? We've sort of had to do that, but just consider when you think about whether it's online, physical, some blended version between the two of healthy community, that could be something for you to ponder. All right, so we're tending foundations, we're curating, we're creating. I got those backwards, but it's fine. They're both in the list. We're sharing with community. All right, now we want to expand our horizons. We're going to read, listen to, or watch at least one thing that inspires us, helps us learn, or helps us grow. Now, I like to think of this as artistic morsels. I'm basically a hobbit at heart. I like a good tasting menu. I'm a sucker for adult Lunchables, aka a charcuterie board, right? So I like to think of it as just these little bite-size, yummy pieces of things that are going to help me add things to my perspective, broaden my horizons, see what's out there, add new skills. Yes, Hobbits Unite, I see you. Very nice. Right? So, it doesn't have to be like the meat and potatoes, like gigantic book every time. And again, there's no minimum or maximum to this. The one encouragement I would have, though, is for some of us, there can be a fine line between leveraging any sort of media. And by that, I don't just mean like watching the news or social media. I mean like podcasts, movies, video, books, short fiction, any media that we are consuming. There can be a really fine line between something that's going to satisfy, adding inspiration and broadening our horizons, and a thing that we're leveraging for escapism. So, what we're looking to do, again, is beginning to know ourselves part of the 75 days is where's our sweet spot? And is it different for like different things that we're consuming? Is it different for us with a podcast versus a book? And would it be helpful for us to then put just a little bit of guardrail, a little bit of structure around that so that we are building a healthy relationship with the different types of media that we're consuming? So I'm going to give y'all a few options, a few things that I'm doing right now that I'd like to share. So one option is the Book of Delights by Ross Gay. It's delightful, as the title might suggest. It's short little essays, like I'm talking a couple of pages in a fairly small sized book. And that's not huge reading commitment, but it is something that I have found gives me just a little morsel of inspiration and helps me kind of get out of my own head. So it's like, I don't know, it's almost like reading snackies, but not reading candy, if that difference makes sense, although candy is also delightful. But that's kind of how I think about this one. All right. The Body is Not an Apology, Sonia Renee Taylor. Freaking life changing. And what I will say is, for me at least, I had to go through this book very slowly and deliberately because it's short read, but it's incredibly deep. And so it really expanded my horizons and broke me apart and put me back together in some fabulous ways. But that's an example for me of, I could lose an entire day trying to read my way through it and think all the deep thoughts. So I had to kind of go piece by piece as I read through it. So there's a difference between something that's, short essay that's like a quick read that I can kind of pick up and put down, and then something that is a relatively short read, but I really have to set aside time, immerse myself in a short part of it, and then just like let it sit, digest it, really process it before I'm trying to go into the next piece. Another one that I just picked up recently, okay, sometimes you go into a bookstore and something just like flies out off the shelf. A book chooses you. It's kind of like the cat redistribution system, but for books, if you feel me on that. All right. And it's called Your Art Will Save Your Life by Beth Pickens. Fabulous so far. And again, it's something that's really quite short, but also quite deep. So again, it's another one where I'm learning a different writing style, which is great for me choosing writing. And number two, it's got some depth and thinking to it. And so I have to just kind of pace myself. And then this is my current fiction pick. A friend of mine actually gave this to me. Shout out to my friend B, one of my besties, my girl Bay. So if you end up watching this at some point, yes, I'm reading the book that you sent me. Thank you. And it is The Sentence by Louise Erdrich. I'm really hoping that I'm pronouncing the name correctly. And again, this is just, it's so good. Um, and for me, I like a good fiction book that also, kind of breaks open my perspective of the ways that I could write in the genre, and also just gives me stories, like new things to contemplate and stuff that inspires my little creative brain to do creative things. So that brings me to the things you read, watch, or listen to each day. It does not have to be nonfiction, people. It doesn't. Like, it can be fiction, it can be nonfiction, it can be long form, it can be short form. You can do podcasts some days and listen to like 5 awesome songs that light you on fire the next day. Okay, you've got options. So many options. You could literally watch like a set of slides of different art pieces from different mediums and styles. That could be the thing that you watch on a particular day. Okay. So you're going to read, watch, or listen to something that inspires you or helps you learn and grow. But that's the creative constraint around it, is the why behind it. What you choose is going to be what works best for you. Okay. All right. So let's do the rundown again, because I know recaps are helpful for me because my brain only holds this stuff for so long. All right. So we're going to tend to our care foundations, like our self care that keeps us functioning. We're going to do one creative session each day. There's no time minimum, but that's where we are letting our creative brain just do what creative brains do with whatever our focus area is. We're going to have one curation session each day, and that's where we're adding in that bit of structure. That's our editing time. That's our upskilling time. That's our setting up, our systems time, whatever that curation needs to look like for you. We are going to share something about our creativity, our creative endeavor, something that we're making, exploring with our community. And that community is folks that we are actually connecting with, and we're potentially building that community and expanding that community over the next 75 days. Okay. And then we are reading, listening to, or watching something that inspires us and or is going to help us learn and grow. All right. So last daily rhythm, but certainly not least, we are going to do at least one thing that is supporting our future self. So this is like, I don't know, this is like the special sauce, I feel like, for this list, because if we're going to work on building consistency and we're going to work on, creating, building community, we need to also think at least a little bit ahead and do something for our future self. Now, the other reason this is a little bit of special sauce, like a little bit of a life hack, is I don't know about you, but sometimes I have difficulty doing nice things for myself and caring well for myself. It's like I'm willing to do it for other people, and sometimes the stuff for me just like falls off a cliff. So, part of thinking about your future self is you can potentially think of that as almost a completely new, different person. You could think of it as, my friend, my future self, my partner, my future self, my family member, my future self, my awesome community member, my future self. So if you're having one of those days where you're like, I don't know if I can just do it for me, okay, then do it for future self. Um, that might give you just that little bit of boost, that little added momentum, that little thing for your brain to help you think about that care and support in a different way. All right. So for me, an example of a way that I could do something really nice for my future self that literally popped up while I was prepping for this live is, what if I clear off my desk each night so that the next day, the area in which I create is ready for me to create? So that's one less barrier for my future self between me and my creativity. Simple, straightforward. It could be, I'm going to set aside a little bit of budgets to make sure that I've got my supplies handled. So I have everything I need on hand to paint or sketch or, create, do origami, make paper airplanes like at a higher degree, sculpt. I've got my new strings for my guitar that I've been putting on to my guitar, right? It's a lot of options here for supplies. Uh, but I'm doing it just enough to keep myself supplied and not so much that I blow my entire budget, right? So again, kind of like with your artistic morsels, with the reading, listening, or watching, there's a fine line between setting yourself up well and going so ham on supplying and structures and, ornate rituals for the next day that you actually end up like blowing your budget and blowing your energy and having a giant time sink. So, for the next 75 days, some of this is also going to be, hey, what's realistic for me? What do I need on hand to be able to create? What does my future self need to really gain this momentum and consistency? And what's like the sweet spot? What is just enough where supporting my future self feels really doable and it's not a huge time sink and it doesn't deplete my energy and it doesn't deplete my entire budget, but I'm really setting myself up well so that I can keep moving forward. So that's what we're really looking for with one thing to support our future self is helping us in gaining that consistency by thinking just at least a step ahead, a couple of steps ahead, being kind to the person that wants to show up tomorrow and keep moving with this 75 bar challenge, keep moving with our creativity and gaining that consistency, and keeping it as simple as we need to, as straightforward as we need to make sure that it still happens. All right. So, full recap. I know we're doing it again, but I find it helpful. And also, we've had some more folks show up. Hi, Franco. All right. So, rundown of the 6 things for our daily rhythm. We're attending our care foundations. One creative session each day, one curation session each day. We're sharing one thing with community each day about our creativity. We're going to read, listen to, or watch something that inspires and or helps us learn and grow. And then we're going to do one thing that's going to support our future self. And that is it, folks. That is the structure of 75 Bard. So for the next 75 days, consistently, consecutively, that's what we're rolling with for whatever your creative focus is. And again, to recap that, for the next 75 days, what we want to do is find the area we want to focus on. We want it to be specific enough to gain that consistency. We want it to be specific enough to be able to find, build, expand our community around creativity. And we want it to be flexible enough so that we get a little variety and it feels doable even as, we start to learn more and grow more and get more inspired over the next 75 days. All right. Also, as a reminder, here's what we're not going to do over the next 75 days. Thing number one, we're not here to shame ourselves into creativity. First of all, that's an antithesis to creativity. We can't shame ourselves into doing cool, inspirational, artsy, out there, playful, mind blowing things with our brain. That's just not how this works. This is not some super secret way to just be part of the productivity machine. Certainly, if it's your jam to catapult your creativity into either the career you already have or something that you're wanting to build in terms of business, I am not going to stand in your way for that. Hi, it me. I'm doing the same thing, right? Um, and that said, primarily, this is an opportunity to really hone our creativity, befriend it, have a good relationship with it, show up for our creative selves, show up for our future selves, and really build a consistency and community around our creative endeavors so that we can do this for the long haul. This is not just a surge and then burnout situation. This is a way to learn how to make it more sustainable for ourselves and really like feed that beautiful creative part of our being, which sounds very hippie woo woo, but it's taking that part of it and hopefully helping it to become more practical. All right. The other thing we're not going to do during 75 Bard is we are human and we have flubs, we have challenges. Sometimes we stumble a little bit. And so we're not going to start all over again from the very beginning if we have a day where something drops. That just sounds like nightmare fuel to my creative brain. That sounds like all or nothing thinking. And what we really want to have is all or something thinking, meaning that showing up with something, showing up in our consistency, showing up for ourselves is way better than being like, well, it's got to be perfect or it's nothing. None of this has to be perfect. To be creative is to be messy. It's to like really get in the muck of it. It's to explore how we approach our creativity over the next 75 days. So, in order to serve that really well, we're yes, building consistency. Yes, we're building integrity. We're sticking to our commitment with ourselves and giving ourselves grace. It is not either or, it's yes and. It's both. It's all the things. I literally have like an ampersand on my wrist to remind me that it can be yes and both. It can be inclusive. It can, even if it feels like a paradox, it can all exist and coexist. All right. So I would love to know, do you have questions that I have not satisfied answers to? Do you have things you would like to share in chat? I would love to see it. I'd love to know what's your focus if you haven't shared it already. I'd love to know if there's a question or some excitement popping up for you. So I'm going to give y'all a moment. I'm going to reach for my delicious bubbly beverage in my collection of NeuroSpice beverages. And we're going to have a little moment of break. Oh, that's cool. All right. So for those not looking at the chat, or if you're like watching the playback later, um, we've got creating a curriculum for myself this year. Got happiness around it. Feels magical and random, which is my favorite type of magic. Love that. Thank you for sharing. Also, point of encouragement, shameless plug. Like, if you're hanging out here in chat and you're like, "Ooh, who are these cool people?" We can follow each other and subscribe to each other's stuff and like check out each other's work, which would be such a cool way to already start building some more community around 75 Bard, just saying. And just community in general. I like connecting people to other people. It's my jam. It's one of my jams. It's a whole jam session. Oh, awesome. All right. Well, you shameless shout out because I know y'all. Hi Nathan. How's it going? So we've got a excited to work on my fantasy novels. And then Allie's partner is working on video game and watching together. Looking forward to more community. We freaking love to hear it. Yes. Um, Sarah, like I feel like being a solopreneur over the past couple of years means that I've gotten better at social media, but while kicking and screaming, I think. So yeah, maybe we can share some creative options and community for how the heck we can engage in a way that's more satisfying and feels less like either like weird marketing speak and less like, I don't know, yelling across the void on a tin can telephone. Um, yeah, I love that we're working on that. I think there's a good balance to be found out here on the socials. And so far, I gotta say, y'all, this has been great. Even though I feel like I'm speaking of tin can telephones, I feel like I'm talking into one, mostly myself. But I really appreciate the activity in chat, and that's definitely helping. So thanks. All right, and big same, yeah. All right. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit. Feel free to keep adding some stuff in chat if you want, but I want to yeah, absolutely. It's a tool and tools have to be learned. Yes, just big plus one to that, Sarah. Absolutely. Um, all right. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit to wrap us up for this live. So, thing number one is it's very likely I'm going to do another live this evening. Just because there's some people that can't hop on in the middle of the day, and I understand that. If not, there may be another one upcoming sometime within the next few days. So watch for that. Feel free to share. Hopefully, you've received some value from our conversations today. I say conversations somewhat loosely, but you know what? Me talking and being able to see chat and us bantering totally counts. It totally counts. All right. So that's that piece. So, as I've already mentioned before to folks, all of the sort of basic structure of 75 Bard is going to be free. Feel free to share it. And you're encouraged to share it here, there, and everywhere, because I'm not going to gatekeep building community, and I'm not going to gatekeep like basic structure to gaining momentum with your creativity. That just feels skeezy to me. So in terms of like the outline and why we're doing 75 Bard, the basic structure, that's going to be free and freely shared. And please, like, pull people in, like tagging your partners, your friends, your fam, your community to do this stuff together because it's just so much more fun when we get to do this with folks and not be just in our own little bubble in our own little world. That said, I am going to have some content happening here on Substack for paid subscribers specifically. Now, what I'm going to be putting into that are things that are kind of going to feel a little workshop in a box, if that makes sense. So, coaching questions, things to ponder, journaling and creative prompts. Some of that could be some more of my photography and pulling it out of the vaults and sharing it as like cool creative prompts that you can use for your artistic endeavors. But basically, it's more guidance than you will get from just the general 75 Bard stuff, but less than you would get from, say, a one on one coaching session where you have my undivided attention in real time. My annual subscription amount is less than you would be paying for a one-on-one coaching session with me. So that's just a thing to be aware of. So like you can literally get an entire year's worth of whatever I'm posting on Substack for paid subscribers. And you're going to have access to that and go back to it whenever you want to, however many times you want to, for however long you're a paid subscriber. Um, that is not pressure. That is just letting you know that I'm a big fan of creatives also being able to eat and have shelter and like meet their basic needs. And so it's a way that I am offering more of my time and energy and more of my sort of input and questions in a way that hopefully will also be more accessible for folks and enrich your experience. So if you'd like enrichment to your experience beyond the stuff that I am just freely circulating and the conversations like this, then that might be your jam. That might be your thing. Certainly, if you are on the socials and you're sharing stuff, including with your community, I have been using hashtag 75bard and hashtag 75bard challenge. So if you want to share and find your peeps, that's the set of hashtags that I've been using to kind of gain some momentum there. It also means that those are the tags to really easily find stuff wherever I'm posting on the socials for those socials that have like tagging capabilities. So you'll notice that if you look at anything that's tagged either 75bard or 75bard challenge here on Substack, it's going to be a really fast way for you to find all of the posts that I'm creating, including I believe that this live will then be something you can play back. So if you missed part of it, or if you just want to review it, you have the opportunity to do that. This live will stay free, so you can also share this. This is also my first time ever doing live anything on Substack. I'm still a Substack noob, so I will circulate follow-ups as best I can for how to share all of the things. And I'm learning. And as Sarah already pointed out, like, it's a tool and tools have to be learned, and I'm learning the tool. So there you go. Oh, cool. Also have some more posts in chat. Thank you. Okay. So, last but not least, I will be spinning up something that I am going to refer to as Wednesday wins over the span of the 75 Bard Challenge. So some of that's going to be lives, some of that's going to be posts, probably a combination thereof, but every single Wednesday, this is my commitment to my community. Every single Wednesday, it's going to be an opportunity for us to share our wins together. So that could be your thing that you're sharing on Wednesdays with your creative community. It could be whatever breakthrough you're having with your creativity. It could be a way you creatively approached life. The only requirements are it's got to be a win, like something that you're celebrating, and something connected to being a creative human. And that could be what you're focusing on for 75 Bard or something entirely different. It's up to you. Um, but I just find it nice to be able to share some cool stuff in community. And so I'm just going to provide a little bit of platforming for that. All right. If you have any questions at all that you would like to direct to me, you can send emails to Becca at intent-agility.com. That is my businessy email, and I'm much more likely to see it if you send it there. You can send me a message here. If you've already subscribed or intend to subscribe, we do have a set of chat threads here on the Substack socials. So you're welcome to hop in there, which is a great way to, again, build some community around this thing. You can find me on all the socials at Intent Agility. That's how you find me. Some of you are able to find me in other ways because I literally know you personally and you've got other contact info, obviously. But yeah, and to find each other, again, hashtag 75Bard and hashtag 75Bard Challenge are going to be the best ways to interconnect, find each other. And again, I encourage you, follow and subscribe with our fellow folks who are on this live, or if you're watching the playback and looking at some chat stuff and you're like, ooh, this person seems pretty spiffy. Yeah, give them a follow, give them a subscribe. We do not gatekeep or encourage like weird, just funnel them all to me stuff around here. That's just silly. I want us to be able to interconnect and find our peeps and do our thing. All right. We are going to wrap this thing up. I know for some of us, we are on our lunch break, or sometimes our self imposed lunch break. If you're like me and you're currently working for yourself. But it's important to go grab a little bit of hydration, a little bit to eat if it's been a while, maybe stretch a little bit, maybe pet your dog or your cat or your bird or your whatever if you have an animal at home. Maybe water your plants if you've forgotten to do that on in a timely fashion. And hopefully you have a fabulous rest of your day. You have a glorious day one of 75 Bard. And I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation elsewhere on all the socials, possibly in real life. And make it a great day, everybody. Bye. See ya.